Tuesday Truths, Matty Johns. From part one, the moments that break us down are often the moments that build the strongest version of who we are. Matty's journey through basketball and setbacks showed us that self-awareness is not found in success, it's forged in failure. From part two, vulnerability saved his life. That drops tomorrow, by the way. A heart scare, anxiety, depression, and the courage to let people in. Matty reminded us that asking for help is not giving up. It is one of the bravest things any of us will ever do. That is your Tuesday Truth. So, here's a few parts of one and a few from part two. If you missed it, it's a good bite size. Give us a listen, give us a follow and a review. Here's Tuesday Truths with Matty Johns and myself. Before we dive in, I want to give a big, massive shout out to our now new proud sponsor, Eshu Skincare, a brand that truly aligns with leading our own way. This Australian-born company is dedicated to keeping skincare simple, effective, and straightforward. They've made waves in the US, even landed in Macy's and over 300 stores, and now they're back with a renewed focus on healthy skin and real results. If you want authentic skincare that fits your lifestyle, check them out in the show notes. Thanks to Eshu Skincare for supporting real stories and mental fitness on leading our own way. And if you're interested in sponsoring like Eshu Skincare, drop us a message. We'd love to connect.
I think I lied to myself a lot about how I was feeling, what I was thinking, and that destroyed me for a good couple of days. And going into that session, I didn't think getting diagnosed with depression or anxiety would change my mindset, because at the time I thought, all right, I have what I have, I feel the way I feel, a label's not going to do much to it. But it wasn't until a few days later where I had my follow-up appointment and I got diagnosed with severe to mild anxiety and depression. And in the appointment I was like, okay, so what do we do now? Kind of book in a few more appointments. But for the next 48 hours I felt like I got hit by a truck, physically and emotionally. It was a struggle to get through, but got through the counsellor and my support network. I got through that point, but I didn't realise how much that label and the diagnosis itself would affect me.
How did it affect you then?
I think it, one, put a label in my head to say something is wrong with me. I had the counsellor suggest antidepressants and took them for a good 9 months, and they were really good. But even with the medication, the thought of me having to take a tablet every day to be okay got to a point where I needed to get off the medication. But similar thing with the diagnosis, I think at first I saw the label as a problem, not a solution. And once I shifted that mindset of, all right, perfect, now I know I've got severe depression and anxiety, now we can put in steps to work through this.
Yeah. So what steps did you decide? Did you put the steps in before you decided to come off the medication, or did the steps come after coming off the medication? Because some people obviously look at medication as one of those steps, right?
Yes.
Did you start your own journey before the end of medication or after?
Yeah, so medication was kind of the first step. Well, second step, I think. I think I booked in probably 4 or 5 sessions with the therapist after that. But I knew at that point that medication was going to help me. I didn't have any negative thoughts towards the medication at first, outside of kind of that feeling of needing to take it. But I got past that pretty quick, and it was a great tool for me. It helped mellow my emotions out. Like my lows definitely weren't as low, and it did what I needed to at the time. With the other steps of creating that support network with my mom, dad, whole family, coaching staff, even my best mate Caden, living next to him in the dorms, instead of just kind of being in my own room trying to deal with him, talking to him. just having a conversation, not trying to cover up anything just because I don't want to be seen a different way from them. And I think that's what most people go through, the stigma behind it and not wanting other people to see you differently. But I think some people do see you differently in a positive way. I think being able to talk about mental health and how everyone's feeling is such a positive and such kind of a superpower in a sense, because having that courage to be vulnerable helped me immensely. I know through talking about it has helped others, and I guess that's what helped my journey to get started along with the medication.
And you mentioned sleep recline. I think people need to hear that. You're a big dude and you're not in a bed. You're not sleeping in a bed anymore, right?
No.
I think we need to paint that picture. That's where your mental health went. You're in a sleep recliner. Why? You said it was your safe space. They're the words you used before. That's your safe space. Why is that your safe space in a recliner, and why are you continuing to sleep there?
Well, I think I was just having such bad anxiety when I would lay down in my bed that I got to a point where I would go out and watch TV on the recliner and then get really tired, then go into bed. Got to a point that wasn't working, so I actually ended up sleeping on a recliner watching The Office. It's why I've watched it probably 12 times, but watching The Office or some other TV show until I just fell asleep, and that could be 2 a.m. Sometimes it was 5:30 a.m. Like, it varied a lot, but slept on a recliner for just about 2 years.
You said a minute ago about anxiety in a bed. Why would you become anxious in bed?
I think the biggest reason was it was dark, I was alone. At the point of trying to relax and go to sleep, because I had kept myself busy throughout the whole day, that was when my mind turned on and started going into overdrive.
Yeah. Should have just got a laptop and laid in bed with the laptop, maybe. That might have worked.
Yeah, I definitely think I've tried that, but yeah, I think just being in the recliner, it was a good recliner, I will say that much, thanks to Caden, but
I can see you lying there on the recliner.
Yeah, half my legs fallen off, but I think it was also probably being in the living room, being closer to my roommates, not being in a closed bedroom, having kind of more of an open space, and yeah, having the TV on, sometimes even a light on. I do remember we had some small kind of LED lights around the room, so not being alone and not being in that enclosed environment.
There's a root to that. I'd love to know why you think that became a problem. Was it because you're part of a big family and you always had people all around you?
Yeah, probably. I think that paints the picture very clearly.
Have you ever looked at that at all?
Not deeply, to be honest. I definitely know that growing up, Dad worked in Melbourne for a bit, but outside of that, family was always very important, and Mum made sure of that. I'd go watch my brother and sister play sport. They do the same. We were always hanging out with cousins and grandparents and auntie and uncles. And I think when you fly a 30-hour trip to America, being by yourself in a room that, yes, your teammates do end up becoming family and very close, but it's different. Like,
it's not the same, is it?
It's not.
Yeah. No, I get it, and I think that's probably where it stems from, right? Thinking about it, that's what's coming to me when I think about your journey. You said 2 years. It came to a point. I remember you saying in the pre-chat, you realised after a while this wasn't normal.
Yeah, I remember. Unfortunately, we had to do COVID testing at my second school at Concordia. Through the thick of COVID, we were there 3 mornings at 7 a.m. and I remember multiple mornings I would go to get tested without having slept before. And that was kind of at the back end of that 2 years of sleeping on a couch of the recliner, and I got to a point that realistically I was going to go back to where I was driving up to the bridge, not sleeping for 2 hours if something didn't change. I think I gently forced myself to switch. I think by communicating to my mum, to Caden, my roommate, that I shouldn't be doing this, helped, where he definitely knew it. He walked out some mornings and I was there watching something and he was like, "Oh, you've been out here all night?" And I'd say yeah, and kind of brush past it. So I know he knew that I was out there most nights, if not every night, but having that acknowledgement of that something was wrong helps me move back into a bed and a bedroom.
Yeah. Based on the things that we've discussed today, just a powerful piece of advice for the young, for anyone in the game of basketball, anyone about life, what would you leave us on?
I think basketball and life go hand in hand with advice and experiences, but I think finding your voice and opening up to people is always a great thing to do. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I think our biggest strengths come from our weakest points. I think that's very obvious in my story and struggles, I guess, but being able to talk up to loved ones, friends, professionals, it can go a long way in your journey. And as we said before, it is a journey. Unfortunately, you can't beat something like mental health, but you can give it a good few rounds and learn to live with it.
Yeah, I like that. I think on the flip side to that is it's so important to open up, like you say, but my advice to everybody else is please listen. Don't roll the eyes. Yep. Don't have your body language shutting off, because we all know when somebody's really not listening. And I felt like I opened up. I'm a very emotional, open book kind of dude. But on my flip side, I did see people's eyes rolling, or they weren't really present. They weren't taking it seriously. So my advice is, yes, still open up, because that actually caused me to close down, right? So people are always saying open up, and I agree with you 100%. But please, guys, if anyone's listening and opening up, please listen to them. Be present with them and just hear them as well. Don't have to always give advice. You don't always have to do something for them, but just hear them, because it helps massively, doesn't it?
100%.
I'm going to ask you a question that's quite difficult here, Matty. Take your time. But if there was what's one question you wish people would ask you, but they never do?
It's definitely not how tall you are, but I think I get that on the daily. It is one hell of a question.
That's why I ask it.
I think maybe it may be very generic, but sometimes how are you really going is a better way just to say, "Oh, how are you going?" or "Are you okay?" Because it kind of is a bit more straightforward. And I know when my loved ones and friends ask me that pretty straight up, there's no way to hide behind your answer.
I agree. I mean, it's funny you bring that up. That's the reason why I asked the question of where your mental health lines on a scale, because there's no avoiding it.
Exactly.
You have to give a defense, and you can only ask that to people you're comfortable with, of course.
Yes.
But I think it's a defining question where they can't get out. Like if you say, "Hey, how are you?" You can just say, "Yeah, I'm good," when really you're not. Yep. Exactly. You do with the scale, and that's why I've started to incorporate into the podcast, because people actually have to answer with a number, and it allows them to be vulnerable without having to go into detail, and you can leave that for a later date or a few minutes later or whatever it may be.
100%.
Yeah, great answer, man. Great answer. It's a tough question. People do struggle with it, and that's why I do it. And I don't want to trip people up, but I really want people to think about deep down of what they just hope people would ask, but they just never seem to do it. It's quite frustrating.
Yeah.
What you just witnessed is only a snippet of our amazing conversation this week. This is what Leading Our Own Way is all about. Real stories, real transformation. If you're watching this before Wednesday, part 1 dropped yesterday and part 2 releases tomorrow. But if you're already here after Wednesday, all parts are available now. Head to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and every other major platform and look for the numbers on the bottom left-hand corner of the episode's covers to start with part 1. Trust me, you don't want to miss this incredible journey.